Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast. On today's show, I'm excited to have Michael Eggerling. He's the Senior Manager of Product Marketing for Digital Retailing at CDK Global. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
So, Michael, there's a lot to talk about. We've had a chance, you and I, to talk about the product development of digital retailing at CDK over the past year. But for people who have missed some of our previous conversation, let's start at the beginning. When was Connected Store, CDK's digital retailing platform, first released? And what can you say about the dealers' uptake or willingness to embrace this product, because there's thousands of dealers out there with CDK websites?
Yeah, so we released Connected Store version 1 in late October of 2015. And we've come, a heck of a long ways since then, both with our UI and our capabilities and the amount of data that is feeding the back end of Connected Store. But I think uptake was pretty tough in the beginning, to be honest. There was a lot of trepidation, I think is the right word, around digital retailing back in 2015. This was kind of the first time that a website company or a digital retailing company, for that matter, were really coming in and sort of insisting on a new way of showing prices, right? And so this was kind of a side of, we were talking to people we hadn't spoken to before, right? In the dealership, we were getting a lot more attention from dealer principals and sales managers, the folks who had been doing the pricing in store. We'd always talk to the dealerships, staff that did the pricing online, that was setting up internet prices and sales and promotions. But it's a whole nother story in the dealerships when you're assembling a deal and desking. And that's what we were essentially trying to do, was to put pre-desk deals on the website. And that really struck a chord. I think there was a lot of potential seen in that from dealerships, but also a ton of caution, because that's where profit is made. That's where the dealership, stays in business and stays successful. So we saw a lot of trepidation at first. I think since then, in the last 3 to 4 years, there's been a lot of evolution in dealer thinking. I think everyone, just about everyone at this point, from your smallest shops to your large dealer groups, realize that this is where things are going, and shoppers expect to be able to build a nearly complete deal online if they don't expect to be able to finish the deal online. And I think a lot of that trepidation is now, we're kind of past that initial phase. Dealers are still showing a lot of care and caution towards how prices and payments are assembled online, but not so much that they're afraid to try, right? Or it wasn't really a fear. I'm saying, I guess that was the wrong word, but that serious caution and trepidation, I think, is starting to fade away. And now dealers are more concerned about, well, how do I do this better than everyone else? And how do I really show my customers that this isn't just a widget, but this is how I sell cars and how I do business better for them? So the evolution has been great, but it's taken a long time.
Yeah, and I confer with that viewpoint. Dealers are very, very concerned about showing price online in general, especially in programs where there's MAP guidelines at minimum allowable advertised price, where certain brands attack each other in a local market, internally trying to push down price and sell on price only. So there's still a good amount of fear on deals that, the dealer feels that if they showed the right price online, they would lose market share because someone would go down the street and beat it by $50. So let's set a couple parameters for the people who are not familiar with Connected Store. Right now, Michael, Connected Store only works on a CDK website. Is that correct?
We actually, the timing of this is interesting. We've just released it on our first few third-party websites. So I think out in the commercial market right now, we're only selling to CDK website customers, but we're doing pilots on third parties.
Wow, that's great news for managers who work at dealer groups, because one of the bigger concerns that I have about website dependent DR platforms is that today, if a dealer group has 10 stores in a local metro market, they're going to want to go out on traditional media, create a clear brand promise about a new way to buy cars, but they may have a couple CDK websites, they may have a few dealer.com, they may have a few Dealer eProcess or Dealer Inspire. And if every website has a different DR tool, wouldn't you agree, Michael, that would be tough to create a consistent brand promise across a dozen different websites?
Yeah, it certainly creates more work. Yeah, I think if I'm being honest, ideally, it's best to have one experience, especially if you're the type of group that expects your customers to be jumping from child site to portal to child site. Now, I don't want to say that it's a deal breaker, because I understand that the nature of this business and how things are, there's going to be plenty of groups that are going to have more than one tool because of OEM mandates, or the CRM or desking tool that's in the dealership, or just the group's willingness to kind of pass down, restrictions on vendors and solutions. So I know that's going to be out there, and we are totally acknowledging that and working hard to make sure that we can coexist with a Roadster or a Cox or a Drive It Now. That's definitely in our strategy. And just, simply one of the things we would try to do is we just try to make sure that our taxes and fees are matching a tool that a dealer has down the street if they're in the same zip code, and sort of the little tactical things of that sort, right? So that we can coexist. Yeah,
that's important, because there is no clear winner, let's just say, in a digital retailing war or competitive cycle. I remember back in the days when I first got involved in computers, there was WordStar and a few other word processing, I think WordPerfect and Microsoft Word. And, today there's pretty much one main word processor, Microsoft Word. The dust has settled. So today, dealers are testing multiple platforms. I know, Michael, dealers are testing your platform and others within a dealer group because everyone's learning. But CDK made a very smart and strategic acquisition recently with ELEAD. And of course, ELEAD has a very large market share in the CRM world. Digital retailing today is very, very tied in to the CRM. What can you tell listeners who maybe have heard about Connected Store, but were wondering, has this acquisition allowed your dev team on the digital retailing side to create an enhanced or a competitive advantage for ELEAD's customers?
Yeah, it's funny. So I think about it, our competitive advantage for Connected Store, what we see as being key to our product, hasn't actually changed. It's always been being the most accurate and being the most profitable and being the most integrated. So what you see on the website is what you get in the store. That's accuracy. We give the dealers a ton of configurability in the back end because a desking team was the team who originally built Connected Store. So they built it to be able to really, quote unquote, desk deals. And that gives the dealers the ability to be profitable. And then we've always done everything we can to integrate into the in-store system. So accuracy, accurate integration, profitable and integrated. Now, like I said, that's always kind of been our core competency. But when the ELEAD's acquisition happened, something changed, right? We went to NADA this year after building our first phase of integration with ELEAD, which meant that when a customer submits a deal in Connected Store, it shows up penny perfect in the ELEAD desk. And when we talk to dealers about that this year, it's like, oh, we get it. We totally get what you're trying to do. And it's been a long time. We've taken a long time to get to that point. And I think it's because, there's things that needed to get done first. Like we need to be able to provide enough leads, and we need the tool to always have the right incentives and things like that before our customers really started saying, all right, now I'm ready to think about totally building my in-store process around this, doing deals in 30 minutes, telling customers I have a VIP process for them. And that's this year, I think at NADA is where we started to see kind of dealers' eyes get wide when they thought about, oh, I have ELEAD. I use Deal Builder Showroom, the ELEAD's mobile selling tool in my dealership. I could totally build a special process for my customers around this and brand it and own it and really change the way I do business. And so in summary, it's always been there for us. The ELEAD acquisition and being able to work with that team and to build this integration between these tools and to brand it with them has been the catalyst that we really needed to get this thing going and get that key value out there into the world.
Yeah, and Michael, you brought up a good point, is that as I've been talking to dealers, their biggest frustration is connecting the online experience to in-store. But what I'm hearing now is if a consumer configures their own deal on Connected Store and the dealer has ELEADs, that can go right into the ELEADs desking tool and also the CRM. So when that customer comes in, the receptionist can check if they're in the system. They would be in the ELEAD CRM at that point. And as the conversation and new kind of pick it up where they left off process begins, everyone's working off the same numbers and the sales desk has everything in the desking tool.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You nailed it. Today's April 22nd, and right now our team is working to integrate our first group of shared customers. So everybody, all of our CDK customers that had Connected Store and ELEAD, CRM, and or desking, we're actually going out and making sure that integration is perfect and working exactly as planned right now. So we have a team that's in charge of that. So I just want to make sure that if we have dealers out there listening that say, hey, I don't have this set up yet, we are going to be, getting in touch with you very shortly. But the other thing that I'll mention is not only are we integrating Connected Store deals right into the dealer's desk, which I think is probably, the most critical thing to do to build an online to in-store process, but we're also integrating directly into an app called Deal Builder Showroom. And Deal Builder Showroom, like I mentioned earlier, is ELEAD's mobile selling tool. It allows the dealer to sell a car on a tablet, right, which shows a modern experience. It helps build trust between the customers because you're side by side instead of sitting across the desk looking at the back of a computer screen. But I just love to think about buying my next car and having an associate greet me at the door with a tablet, asking me my name, and then picking up my deal from there. Thanks, Mr. Eggerling. I see that, you put together a payment on, this car. It looks like it's $329 a month with these incentives. What do you want to do next? Like that would be my idealistic car buying process, and a process that I think could help us make buying a car really, really fun. And that's the thing that we've been going after for several years, is that buying a car should be fun, and it doesn't seem to be anymore for a lot of people. And we think that digital retailing, with a strong bent towards online to in-store integration, can help it be fun again.
I would agree. The biggest problem is that there's some digital retailing tools that are primarily website. There are no in-store desking or mobile tools, or just the opposite. There are some digital retailing companies that have an amazing showroom experience, but they don't have a widget yet or an integration on the website that would allow a seamless payment to be customized by consumer. What I'm hearing here is that you've had a lot of time working on the online experience, and now with the deep integration into CDK DMS, CDK's desking tool, and ELEADs now, dealers who are on the CDK ecosystem will have all the tools they need to actually develop the process to make it fun again.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The last thing that I would mention there is, I think I talk about it a little bit like it's easy, and in my head it's starting to seem easy, like you go in and you redo retail transformation and you do all these great things, but we know that it's not going to be easy, right? We have a lot of things in place at dealerships that are going to be hard to change. And so we've taken a branch of our consulting team and we've built them into a digital retailing transformation team. So we're going to be deploying that along with some of our new packages here in the next probably 2 to 4 months. Actually, probably less than that. Probably within about 30 days, 40 days, we're going to be deploying that team. And that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be going out and saying, here's what your in-store process looks like. Here's what your online process looks like. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be CDK tools, but here's our business plan. Here's our plan for you. Here's our training strategy for you. Here's how we're going to get you to the retail transformation that you're looking for. Because like I said, we know it's going to be tough and it's going to take some dogged effort from determined dealers to get to a real transformative place.
Yes. And my brother Glenn and I are working on our next book, which is a blueprint for a modern retail experience, taking the time to talk to dozens of dealers with different technology, where they started, what were their biggest challenges, and what are the benchmarks and metrics that dealers should be looking at before and after digital retailing is installed. So I'm really excited about this. This book should be done towards the fall, probably ready for the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit in November in Palm Beach. While we're talking about measurement, Michael, I've been pleased to be working with Colleen Harris from your team.
Yep.
She is your Google Analytics product expert and is working with all your product teams to have a stronger documented Google Analytics event library. Tell me where we're going with that. Is Connected Store today going to be throwing events into a dealer's Google Analytics account so that they can see the engagement of the tool, kind of like a funnel visualization report?
Yeah. So previously we had that for ourselves, right? We had a funnel visualization report. I don't know if that's exactly what we called it. It might be. And we had tagged everything. We tagged every bit of minutia within Connected Store for that purpose. And so that we could do, very in-depth studies of what customers are doing and where they're dropping off and the type of tracks that are really, generating a lot of leads and closed deals and things like that. So what Colleen has done, and Colleen is an animal, she's really worked hard on this and will not stop until it's being used by everybody. So she's been great, is she's taking everything and making it GA ready and for Google Analytics, right? And so that way we can tell our customers, you don't have to take our word for it. You don't just have to use our dealer command center analytics to see how this thing is performing. We've tagged everything up. I believe we have a document that shows dealers how to get started with Connected Store tags in Google Analytics, and maybe I'll just send that over to you after this conversation.
Great.
But yeah, we've gotten pretty serious about that here. I believe in the last 2 years about having a much deeper integration with Google Analytics for that very reason. They have a lot of trust with our customers, and we think we can help ourselves and help dealers by doing a better job working with GA.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm trying to do, and obviously I'm working with Colleen because she's really ahead of the curve compared to most other companies thinking about this, but dealers are going to want to know, hey, what's the right order to ask questions? What is the right method of moving a customer through the DR experience without losing too many people, right? So when a shopping cart is analyzed, there's typically a Google Analytics goal set up for shipping address and then billing address and such. So if any one of those steps becomes too onerous and a lot of people exit, you can look at it and say, wow, this sales funnel visualization report shows a breakdown in step 4. So I love that. So I'm looking forward to trying to establish some standards across all the DR platforms so that multi-store groups with different DR tools will have a standard set of GA event names. And I know OEMs are going to want to do something similar to that. So I hope to be the first to publish. Michael, when I talk to dealers, they have a general idea that digital retailing should be better for them. If they're testing, we've heard people say, well, you get more leads because you're giving consumers something of value back. So there's a new trade other than just fill out this form. I've heard that it reduces the time back and forth between a sales associate and the desk on a busy Saturday. They can do that all through a tablet. I've heard that the back end gross is not going down, in some cases, even slightly rising because, well, the consumer saw products online and then they were reinforced in the store. And finally, when they got to the F&I process, whether it is a separate office or the sales associate, the uptake was greater. But I'm sure you've been asked this. How are you telling dealers 3 months, 4 months, 5 months after they've installed how they should be looking at or measuring success?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you just named all the obvious KPIs that we pay a lot of attention to, right? And to be honest with you, Brian, I mean, usually 3-4 months into a connected store setup, we're still looking at completed leads and deals, because I think it's taking more time than we suspected to get dealers and our customers to really get going. And I think that's mostly because of caution. And so 3-4 months, I think we're still looking at, all right, you had, the X amount of deals in February. In March, we had a little bit more. Maybe that was due to this campaign you did. I'll tell you where I would like to be, though. Next year, in 2020, if we can be at a point where 3 months in, we're talking about in-store process and we're doing some more subjective analysis with our online retailing specialists, where we could go and say, all right, let's study 90 leads, 90 deals that came in from connected store in the last couple of months. And let's just look at all the language that was sent to these people. Gosh, maybe we could even do some natural language processing or something on it like that eventually. I'm signing people up for work now. But the thing that I see over and over and over again that's frustrating to me is the way our dealers, our customers respond to digital retailing leads, whether they're from connected store or other tools. We've gotten so good at giving boilerplate responses to deals that it just is second nature at this point. And I think you actually said it at one point at the DMSC conference. You asked dealers to raise their hand if they had more leads than they knew what to do with. And I think everybody raised their hand. And it was a really kind of striking moment for me. And I realized at that moment, oh, this is why this is happening. And so I think some of the analysis that all of these dealerships that are trying to do digital retailing should do is to be looking at the way we respond to customers who send you in a completed car deal. Because that customer, I think it's just common sense, doesn't want to be asked those normal questions like, when can you come in? How much do you have for a down payment? Do you have a trade-in? Things like that, because I already told you that. And that's a thing that I'm really been harping on a lot with our team and with our online retailing specialists, is that we have to address this with our customers and help them the best we can with lead handling, identifying their digital retailing leads, and building a track for these customers so that they get the right responses when they send in digital retailing deals.
I totally agree, Michael. And one of the things I'm working on the new book is how do we benchmark the in-store process? You see, for years, smart dealers have created different workflows for different leads, right? So dealers who use TrueCar typically have a TrueCar workflow with TrueCar scripts, and TrueCar even provides those scripts to make sure that they maximize those leads. So one of the challenges that we've found so far is that some DR companies, the leads are not coming in identified in the CRM properly, so they're not tagged differently. Now, that's going to get worked out because we're holding these companies' feet to the fire. So once we assume that a lead comes into the CRM, it's from a DR tool, and it will follow a different workflow. It should follow a different workflow than a get e-price or, schedule a test drive lead. The biggest challenge I found was when they come in, how long does it take for the receptionist to get them logged in and matched with the right sales associate? How long does it take for that sales associate to pick up where they left off, out to selecting a vehicle or looking at vehicles of interest, getting the test drive scheduled, coming back in, each of those steps? I've written about this, calling that a managed retail sales process, and companies like The Next Up have kind of pioneered this idea of knowing the time between each step. Michael, do you know if in the Deal Builder showroom app that ELEAD's built, that there are time stamps on these major transition points so that maybe in 2020, CDK could come out with a best practice guide of timing and efficiency between steps? I think that's a missing data set that no one really has in regards to, hey, before we embrace digital retailing, this is the time it took between steps. And now once we embraced digital retailing and got our teams trained up, this is the time savings. What do you know about the potential of creating a kind of a flow chart with times for hundreds of customers to give the dealer some type of an average and a boundary when they know that they're getting better and smoother with customer purchase requests?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that I don't remember what the ELEAD team told me about that. I know we've had a couple of conversations about it in the past, and I'll have to follow up with you on what exactly they can do. I know this is something that they work on, and there might be capabilities already built in, but I'm going to find out what time stamping looks like for you. But I mean, we see the ability to break down your in-store deals and look at the time spent in each spot is kind of like the nirvana of tracking modern retailing. And we know it's not easy because there's a ton of different CRMs out there, and there's all sorts of variability in how they're used. But it kind of just strikes me as one of those things that somebody's going to have to just start, right? Like Next Up already, like you mentioned, has already done a good job of starting to track that sort of thing. And I think that, it's something that we talk about a lot, and it is something that we'll start doing as well, right? Because we're starting to get to the point now where we're feeling really good about what we're tracking online with our GA integration and everything that we're doing there. So the next thing is, all right, yeah, just like you said, how do we start identifying the big gaps or the big areas for improvement in dealership process? But the other thing is, it's like, so I always think about this story I heard about these consultants that went into Starbucks nationally and tried to shave off like 12 seconds off the time it takes for a customer to get their latte, right? And that was big business, and it was saving, I don't know what the number was, but it had, more than 6-7 zeros on it. And they were saving a ton of money by doing deals a little quicker. And I don't know if there's so much more nuance in buying a car, because not everybody wants to be in and out of a dealership in 30 minutes or 40 minutes or less. Some people want to really savor that. But the important thing is, once we start to track it, we'll know there are parts that nobody likes, right? Sitting and going back and forth on credit or the incentives that you are eligible for. And we'll start to identify some of those more contentious areas and how much time we can cut out of those so that we can spend more time on the fun stuff, like, exploring the features of a new car.
That's exactly what I want to try to document in my new book. Specifically, what are the best remote sales process, strategies for handling those leads when they come in before the consumer arrives? What's the best flow and time stamps that would give dealers just some guidelines of time savings? I just recently bought a car, and the dealer I bought it from didn't have digital retailing, so I tried to simulate it, Michael. You'd be proud of me. Be proud. Okay. I submitted a lead, and I said, this is the exact car I want. I'm going to finance it. I know that there's 0.9 for 3 years. And I'm going to put this much down, and I want a 7-year extended warranty package, and I'd like to come in tomorrow and buy it. Now, my only request was, could you please send me the deal sheet so I can review everything? And, God bless them. They do what, most dealers are trained to do. And surely it's important. It's like, well, when can you come in? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, no, I gave you everything. I come in when I want to buy the car. Well, when can you come in? And it was funny. It was funny. And then I had to say, well, I'm in the auto industry. And so here's what I want to do. And the salesperson was like, but it takes a while to calculate all those payments. And I said, listen, go over to your F&I manager and tell them to plug in these numbers and hit the enter key. Right. He said, okay,
Yeah.
I'll see if I can do it. So then the sales manager called. Hey, see, you're interested in a Honda Pilot. Yeah, great. When can you come in? I said, listen, I don't want to come in until I see the whole deal sheet. He said, if I send you the deal sheet, will you come in today and buy the car? I said, absolutely, I will do that. Okay, let me see what I could do. Okay, he sent me the deal sheet. After that point, and maybe having to call in a trump card that I work in the industry, I was in and out in an hour and 15 minutes. It was fantastic. I arrived, gave the receptionist my name. The car was already pulled into detailing. The person I talked to on the phone walked me over to the car and say, is this the car? Yes. They had my finance app, right? I did that online, and really everything went super smooth. My wife was with me. She was really happy. And I tell you, we're getting close as long as we can train the people to understand that someone like me was kind of like a digital retailing transaction, knowing pretty much exactly, well educated on the offers. I knew what rebates I could qualify for. I knew everything. And to be able to recognize and give that customer a fast, simple, and easy way to buy that car.
Yeah, it's funny because the thing I'm realizing now is humbling is that dealership was able to do digital retailing with you, buy online, pick up in store, basically without digital retailing tools.
Yes.
And so the striking thing to me is, the technology is a small percentage of it, right? Having a digital retailing tool on the dealership is a small percentage of it. But having the processes in place to deal with what comes out of that is so much larger. It's
Yes.
so much more important.
Yeah, it was encouraging to me that with a little nudging, this dealer who had kind of a brand promise about no smoke and mirrors was actually trying to do that and create a modern retail experience. Michael, as we wrap up today's interview, when somebody's interested in connected store, obviously there's a lot of information on the CDK website. Is there a handy URL or a subdirectory that would help them get to the digital retailing information that you offer?
Yeah, cdkglobal.com/connected store. Or anybody on the listening to this podcast can email myself and my team directly at connected.store@cdk.com. We like to put that email out there, and we get a lot of action on it sometimes, but we want to hear from our customers and everybody else.
Great. So that's connected.store@cdk.com. So that's awesome. That's a super easy email address to remember. And Michael, your team is going to be at the 2019 Digital Marketing Strategies Conference and the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. So dealers who would like to get some hands-on experience with the products and are going to those shows, of course, can do that. But you also have a pretty robust field team, Michael. And I want to just emphasize the dealers that technology is a piece, but helping with process and workflow really requires your DR company to have some field consultants that are able and trained to implement that. Michael, that's a team that's growing every day based on demand. Isn't that correct?
That's right. So we do our field work in two ways. We do virtual and in person now. And so we've had our virtual online retailing specialists for quite a while. These guys are an incredible team, and in the last couple of years since we launched them, have just learned so much. They know more about connected store and digital retailing in automotive than anybody else on our staff here. And so they are always at the disposal of the dealers. All they have to do is ask, right? Just ask your CDK advocate, or email me directly, or ask your salesperson, or anyone on CDK knows how to direct our customers to them. And then we also have our digital retailing consultants that are just starting to enter the field now and help with digital retailing transformation in dealerships. And you can, if a dealership is interested in talking about that, they can talk to their CDK sales rep, or they can just email myself. If they like to email me at connected.store@CDK.
Great. Well, Michael, thanks so much for being on today's show. I look forward to seeing how the integrations with the robust ELEAD Deal Builder showroom tool works. I'd love to get you back on the podcast in a few months if we start to see the showroom timestamp reports. I'd love to see that and get that in my upcoming book. For everyone who's listening to today's podcast, this is one in a series of 20 interviews with digital retailing thought leaders, people who are trying to create a modern retail experience and bring dealers to an opportunity to increase market share by giving customers exactly what they want. They want it faster, simpler, mostly online, and well, they want their time online respected when they show up in the store. So make sure you listen to all the podcasts in the series. You can visit brianpash.libsyn.com or just search in the iTunes podcast store for the Passion podcast, and you'll see all of our podcasts there. We release a new one every Monday, so we look forward to spending time with you in the future on a future podcast.